Natasha Romanoff has been a cornerstone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe since 2010. A former assassin turned hero, she's been part of some of the MCU's most pivotal moments. Fans waited years for her to get her own solo film, a chance to dig deeper into her story and give her the spotlight she deserved. But when Black Widow finally arrived, it wasn't quite what we'd hoped for. This isn't about tearing the movie apart or listing everything that didn't work. Instead, we're asking a bigger question. Why did Black Widow, a movie with so much potential, feel like a missed opportunity? What happened behind the scenes, and what choices in storytelling held it back from being truly great? When it comes to the film, one of the biggest problems is the timing. This movie dropped in July 2021, 2 years after Natasha's death in Avengers Endgame. At that point, we'd already mourned her, celebrated her sacrifice, and moved on. So, why did it take Marvel over a decade to give one of their founding Avengers a solo movie? By the time it finally hit theaters, it felt more like an afterthought than a celebration of her legacy. Black Widow is set after Captain America Civil War, during her time in hiding. That was a prime opportunity to give us a deeper look at her character and her personal struggles while she was alive. Releasing the movie in 2016, or even 2017, would have made it an integral part of her story and the larger MCU as a whole. Instead, we got a prequel that added little to her arc, making it feel disconnected from her ultimate fate. Imagine if we'd gotten this film before Infinity War. It could have made her reunion with the Avengers and her final sacrifice on Vormir hit even harder. However, we're left with a movie that feels like it's trying to fill a gap Marvel forgot about. Villains can make or break a movie, and unfortunately, Black Widow struggled in this department. Let's start with Taskmaster. This was a character fans were hyped about, an iconic villain in the comics with the ability to mimic any hero's fighting style. But in the movie, Taskmaster was reduced to a silent enforcer with little personality or depth. The reveal that Taskmaster was actually Dreykov's daughter, a victim of Natasha's past mistakes, was an interesting idea, but the execution lacked emotional weight. It felt like Marvel was more focused on delivering a surprise twist than developing a compelling character. And then there's Dreykov, the man behind the Red Room. On paper, he's terrifying, a shadowy figure controlling a network of brainwashed assassins. But in practice, he came off as a one-note villain. He spends most of his screen time monologuing in a way that feels more cliché than menacing. Imagine if he had been portrayed with the same nuance and complexity as villains like Zemo or Killmonger. Instead, he felt more like a placeholder, a generic bad guy that the story needed to wrap up Natasha's backstory. Great villains elevate their heroes. But in Black Widow, the antagonists failed to rise to the occasion, leaving the movie feeling flat in its most crucial moments. The movie was Natasha's long-awaited chance to take center stage, but somehow, it often felt like her story was playing second fiddle. Much of the focus shifted to Yelena Belova, who stole the spotlight with her sharp humor and emotional depth. And while Florence Pugh's performance was fantastic, it sometimes felt like the film was more interested in setting up Marvel's next Black Widow than honoring Natasha's journey. But Nat's arc had so much untapped potential. Why didn't we see more of her wrestling with her guilt over Budapest? Or the moral weight of her decision to kill Dreykov's daughter to escape the Red Room? These moments were hinted at but never fully explored. Instead, we got surface-level nods to her past, but no deep dive into what made her one of the most complex and layered characters in the MCU. This was her chance to address her trauma, her choices, and her redemption, not just as an Avenger but as a person. It's frustrating because there's a powerful story buried beneath the surface. When you think of Black Widow, you probably expect a grounded, gritty spy thriller, something in the vein of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But what we got was a movie that traded substance for spectacle. Sure, the action scenes were visually impressive, but they didn't always fit the tone of the story. For example, the car chase with Yelena starts out exciting, but it quickly feels over the top with the inclusion of an indestructible armored vehicle plowing through city streets. And then there's the finale, Natasha skydiving through debris as the Red Room explodes around her. It looked cool, but did it really fit? Nat is at her best when the stakes are personal and grounded. which didn't necessarily fit the tone. The movie seemed torn between giving us an intimate story about her past and delivering the bombastic action Marvel is known for. But in trying to do both, it lost some of its heart. Also, the editing didn't look that great either. Now, we can't talk about Black Widow without addressing the pandemic and its messy release. Originally set to hit theaters in May 2020, the movie was delayed multiple times before finally being released in July 2021. But instead of a traditional blockbuster debut, it launched simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus with Premier Access. While this hybrid release strategy made sense during a pandemic, it caused some serious issues behind the scenes. Scarlett Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney, arguing that the streaming release violated her contract, which was tied to box office earnings. The public nature of the lawsuit wasn't just awkward. It overshadowed the movie itself. Fans were suddenly talking about streaming rights and legal battles instead. It was like the drama around the release became bigger than the film, and that hurt Black Widow and gave the movie a poor perception. And to make matters worse, the simultaneous release likely impacted the movie's box office performance. While Disney Plus made the film accessible, it also diminished the hype of seeing Natasha's story play out on the big screen, where it really belonged. Let's talk about the what-ifs. Black Widow had the potential to be one of the MCU's most compelling films. Natasha Romanoff is a complex character with a dark, mysterious past. Exactly the kind of backstory that could have carried a gritty, character-driven spy thriller. Instead, the movie only scratched the surface of her journey. Imagine if the movie had focused on Natasha's internal struggle, her complex relationship with Clint Barton, or even the lingering trauma from her Red Room days. These are the kinds of stories fans wanted to see. Instead, much of her development felt sidelined by action scenes and set up for Yelena and other future characters. And let's not forget the tone. Black Widow had the opportunity to give us something on the coast of the Winter Soldier. But instead, the movie strayed into big-budget superhero tropes that undermine the emotional weight of the story. Even the timeline could have been better utilized. Placing the film right after Civil War, when Natasha was on the run, was a great concept. But rather than using it as a moment to reflect on her choices and the cost of her defection from S.H.I.E.L.D., the film felt more like a detour from the MCU's larger narrative. In short, Black Widow had all the pieces for an unforgettable farewell to one of Marvel's most beloved characters. But instead, it played things safe, leaving us wondering what could have been if they had taken a few more risks and dug a little deeper. In the end, Black Widow wasn't a bad movie. It had some great performances, particularly from Florence Pugh and David Harbour. But it was a missed opportunity to give Nat the send-off she truly deserved. What do you think? Did Black Widow live up to your expectations, or were you left wanting more? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.